Very warm welcome and a good afternoon, everyone. So this is a topic which may have a heavy caption that bringing sustainability and using collaboration to create impact, but it's very relevant. And during the next 45, 50 minutes, we'll try and explain through the panelists that we have that why it is very relevant. Look, since I've grown up in my life, I've always heard one statement, मुल्क नाजुक दौर से गुजारा, लेकिन मुझे याद नहीं है इतना नाजुक कभी भी हुआ था। तो इस वक्त वाकई नाजुक दौर है। I have 37 years career, 24 years at senior leadership position. I've never seen anything remotely close to this, right? But what do we do? What can businesses do in these tough times? Do we also become proponent of despair, doom and gloom? Or do we do what is at least in our control and in our circle of influence to bring sustainability? So it is said that adversity has opportunity. And there is adversity in this country like never before, right? And I say it with a lot of conviction. But if the adversity is the biggest in this country's history, possibly is the opportunity as well. So in the next 40, 45 minutes, we'll try and look for those opportunities which are available to us, so that when audience leave this room and when we are over from this session, hopefully some optimism, some hope, some happiness, some brightness is visible through small bright stars in this country which are still doing some amazing work. And those bright stars are with me on this panel today. You've been introduced to them. So the way we'll conduct the session is that I will have each of the speaker do a brief intro, 4 minutes, and I'll appreciate if everyone restricts to around 4 minutes, because organizers have cut 15 minutes of our time, but that's okay. And after that, I'll have 1 or 2 questions for each of the panelists, and depending on time, we'll then open the floor for the questions from the audience so that we can also engage with you and give you some perspective based on what is still not clear in your mind. So the good news with this panel is we have great diversity. So 3 men, 2 women of substance, of amazing achievements as 4 men. Yeah, me too. Thank you. So, you know, and we'll hear from them, and hence I'll go 1 woman, 1 man, ladies first, as they say. Yeah. So I'll start with Ayesha, who is CEO of Park Brunei Company Limited, to give her message and her intro on how in these adverse times collaboration can bring sustainability and help us build a resilient corporate environment in this country. Ayesha?
Thank you, Veqar Sahab. It took me some time understanding the topic. It's a complex one. And I thought that I would draw on my experiences of banking over the last 30 years to try and explain what I see as challenges and opportunities. I heard Salim Saab talk about the sugar industry, so maybe that's a good example where we see 70 or 80 odd mills, and we know that out of these 70 or 80, 65 may not survive the next 15 years. They're just not sustainable. But we also see that there are 3 or 4, sadly just a few, but they have a model that works. They're doing well. They are not selling sugar, they're selling power, they're selling MDF or chipboard, they're selling pharma sector sugar, and whatever sugar is made, that's the byproduct. So we have a model that works, and we need to see what is it about these 4 or 5 companies which is so different and which sets them apart from the others. And I think the only thing you can see is the spirit of collaboration. In these companies, you see them not working for sponsors or shareholders, but playing a role in the whole ecosystem. So they're the ones who pay their growers on time. They provide them seed and fertilizer and input. They have research and development. They spend money. And they are the ones who are then doing as well as they are and are destined to grow bigger. The reason why I'm talking about this is because sugar is a huge part of the banking sector exposures. If you were to see any banking balance sheet, you'll see textile, you'll see power, and you'll see sugar. But sugar, as a banker, if I feel that it's a sector where most entities are unviable, then certainly these questions need to be asked. And then we need to see what, as a banker, I can identify. An easy thing for me would be to go and just lend money to these 5 companies. But what can I do as a banker to ensure that the segment is not unviable? And I think that's where we need to work on risk capital, on the fact that banks have to not pick and choose, but be partners in ensuring the sustainability of this sector as a whole. And I think we need to look at covenants that go beyond debt servicing, but look at covenants that bring creditworthiness in respect of how punctually are growers paid. How is the yield or recovery ratios of each mill? What is the journey towards value addition? And then we allocate capital to those who have these plans, and we don't give capital, whether it is working capital, whether it's a politically strong family, whatever collateral they give. We look at these factors when we do our risk assessment, and we direct our capital accordingly. And that's the way you'll have consolidation, that's the way you have sustainability, and that's the way capital should be allocated. So certainly I think the examples that these top 5, 6 sugar mills give us shows us the direction and the need for sustainability through collaboration.
Thank you very much, Ayesha. So Ayesha brought some very, profound points in her talk. She, of course, spoke about collaborations and banks becoming partners. But she also pointed, now, some of the things she mentioned, of course, should be done irrespective, but in adversity, this is as good a time as any to implement. So, for example, she spoke about those who have better recovery ratio, those who are value adding, right? Banks should divert their attention to those because these organizations will remain in the future. Organizations which continue to follow the 1970s and 1960 models, hoping that they will go into 2030 with those models will be extinct. So in 2023, you got to think 2030. You can't think 2023, and it is a sin to think 1970. That's way behind us. And adversity provides us an opportunity to set our priority. So we move from a banking sector perspective to a more energy sector perspective, which is interesting. Circular debt ne maar diya, right? So that's something which keeps coming up under discussion. And this sector, of course, is critical to all of us. It is all about sustainability. It is all about resilience. And in my view, KE is an absolute star when it comes to transformation and changing a story of an old-fashioned organization to moving into the future. So the man who leads it is Moonis Abdullah, right? And I'll have Moonis talk about what are the things they are doing and also spirit of collaboration needed at this point in time to bring sustainability, and what are some of the things KE is doing in these tough times? Moonis, over to you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Veqar Sahab, thank you very much for inviting and appreciating the good work, which is somehow please go to Islamabad and tell them also that we are a shining star.
They don't listen to me
There is some
anymore.
gap probably. So again, but I hope these conferences will help them understand also that we have done something well. So again, as Veqar Sahab in his opening statement said, that when there is absolute problem, so there is an opportunity. In KE, when it was privatized, we had losses of up to 37, 38%. And I think I have said this many times, so most of people would know, but I would again use this forum to say that it is a reality that in 2007, 2008, KE had more gardeners than engineers. It is factual statement, it's not some statement. So this kind of company, you need to do few things good so that you can turn around. And today we are sitting at transmission and distribution loss of 15%, recovery, not sugarcane recovery, but KE recovery going from 80 to almost 95%. And while the rest of the entire distribution network in the country has not moved beyond 1.5%. So this is something which KE has achieved in the last, I would say 12, 13 years, although privatization happened in 2005, but the effort started in 2008. Collaboration is something which if we don't do that, probably it would be impossible for us to operate. We are not a sugar plant or a fertilizer plant where the scale of operations obviously is in a very limited space, although we have some power plants which we have in a limited space. But at the end of the day, when you have to supply power to almost 3.5 million customers and predominantly the entire population, the scale is almost 6,200 square kilometers from Uthal, Vela, Bindar to Gharo. If you don't collaborate, it is impossible to do what you need to do. It is engagement not only with the general public, it is beyond individuals. You need to be engaged with the regulator, because we are a monopoly per se. There's no doubt about that, but the tariff is controlled and we can't do anything unless the regulator and the government approves those plans. So the collaboration happens at every level, whether it is regulator, whether it is federal government, whether it is provincial government, whether it is political parties, whether it is, let me tell you that our guys, they engage with the pesh imams of a mosque. Because when you go to these areas where the people who are living, they don't have money to pay, you have to tell the pesh imam, masjid se elan kare sir ke bijli chori ke upar bhi haram hai. And this message somehow is very difficult to be communicated. So, and KE, when we started this journey, we obviously did well in defense and PCHS and Gulshan-e-Iqbal in many areas, but we found out at some point in time that if we don't do things in, for example, Gadap, Sarjani, Baldia, Liari, Lines area, we'll not be able to do the remaining good work that is needed to be done. And again, we initiated a project which was called Sarbulandi. We entered into those areas. We invested heavily in aerial bundle cables. We reduced the losses. Even today, there are areas in Lines area, there are some feeders which are low loss because the local community collaborated with us, and they understood that if they don't pay or they steal, they can't have uninterrupted power supply. So, and again, after that, we again understood the problem that, women, they are at houses, in the houses, we need to go and tell them whether it is safety, whether it is energy conservation. So we started that Roshni Baji program, which ultimately got us the Platts Award for the CSR award, and these Rajni Bajis are women from the local areas who are trained to become electricians, and we have already done almost 100. We are doing another 100. They have got jobs. They go to houses. They explain the electricity system to the housewives. They help us get data. And we, Veqar Sahab, let me tell you a very interesting thing, that we have actually data to demonstrate that the accidents, the in-house accidents that used to happen in those areas, where the Roshni Bajis, they have penetrated, those accidents have gone down. So, and again, this is all thought process, and again, our CSR team has done a very good job. In terms of beyond this, federal government, you have to explain circular debt. Bilkul sahi keh rahe hain Veqar Sahab. And again, I was in another conference yesterday. I said, I claim that I have convinced federal government that KE is not contributing anything to the circular debt. And while it is almost, Karachi is 3.5 million customers. We supply almost 3,600 megawatts in peak summer. So whatever we do, we are not a burden on the federal government. We have reported a loss of 27 billion rupees few days ago for the half year, but that loss is our cost. It is not going to go to National Exchequer to be funded from either PHPC or any other company. We have to manage it ourselves. In terms of the future, as we talked about, how will you see, what you see in 2030? We have filed a plan how to, run KE for the next 7 years with the regulator, and we are also explaining it to all the stakeholders, whether it is provincial government, federal government, all the industrial states in Karachi, that we need to have stable power supply. We need to ensure that if someone wants a connection for an industry in any area of Karachi, we should have the ability to provide that connection to them very quickly. We need to ensure that the load shedding, which is happening even today because of a variety of reasons, it should be curtailed. And the plan is that to reduce it to almost 95%. We are talking about sustainability of the sector itself, but in terms of the SDGs, inshallah ta'ala will have at least 30% of KE generation mix from solar, wind and hydro. And we have signed an agreement with China 3 Gorges, and inshallah ta'ala we'll be able to demonstrate to Karachi that probably, yes, in the next 5 to 7 years, inshallah, hydro takes some time, that we'll be able to wheel some hydro electricity to Karachi. And the responsibility that lies on us is to ensure that we keep the tariff at a certain level which is manageable. Obviously, the consumer tariff today is decided by the federal government, so we can only contribute some element to that decision, but at the end of the day, the overall decision lies with the federal government. So I think sustainability, obviously, in terms of KE's ability to do this, lies with the tariff, which has to be decided by the regulator. And in Pakistan, if we don't fix this problem in terms of the remaining distribution companies, while we can demonstrate what we have done, but the problem lies in operations of those discos who incur losses beyond regulated number, who don't collect whatever is the target, which is 100% abnormal. But then that shortfall goes to the National Exchequer and funded through circular debt, and that has to be curtailed. So we continue to do whatever is needed to be done to ensure that we keep Karachi stable. And inshallah, let's hope that we are able to do that.
Thank you very much, Moonis. So in the first intro, we spoke about how banks are collaborating and how their decision making is shifting in these tough times to build for sustainable future. Now we hear an organization and what are the kind of initiatives they are taking to make sure not just it brings sustainability to their business, but also to the community at large. So this Roshni Baji is not just a great initiative because you are upskilling women of the city and the country, but look at the purpose behind it, that it's bringing the accidents down and creating more health and safety apparatus for the people to live healthy in times to come. Moonis also spoke about the need to collaborate with general public, educating them on the need for integrity, on the need for paying on time. If you don't do it, then expecting uninterruptible power supply will remain a dream. And those kind of collaboration will help. In these tough times, recovery ratios are extremely critical because cash has always been the king, but now it is super king, if that is the right terminology, right? So how do we keep the cash moving so that the organization continues to work? So great insights. Thank you so much, Moonis. I go to Fahd Chinoy, who is Pakistan Cables, bring a private sector perspective into this discussion on how do we bring sustainability, importance of collaboration, and how do we go, how in his experience and in his management style, they're going through the adversity and hopefully creating more opportunities. Fahd, over to you.
Thank you very much. So Pakistan Cables is a 70-year-old company. Next year we'll be celebrating our 70th year, inshallah. And around 2020, we had decided to go through a major expansion, multi-billion rupee expansion, which was going to be a once-in-a-life cycle opportunity for the company, and we were progressing ahead with it, and then along came COVID. And of course, that gave us an opportunity to introspect, and we realized that we really had to pivot the organization. And that crisis brought an opportunity for us to reevaluate what was our vision statement, our mission, and our values. And the whole process of redefining our vision statement was a grassroots up process where everyone in the organization got involved. Ultimately, we landed up with a vision statement that reads, ignite possibilities, transform lives, and instill pride. Now, that's not your typical vision statement. Typical vision statement for a cable manufacturing company would be the best cable manufacturing company, enhance market share, provide good quality products, et cetera, But we decided to go, a non-typical route, and we put a very ambitious vision in front of ourselves. What it then immediately allowed us to do was to galvanize the organization by taking action against that vision statement. So the first thing we did was, within our new factory, we started planting 40,000 trees on 3 acres with the largest of its kind, as far as I'm aware, urban forest in Pakistan, in an industrial setting. It is now flourishing. A new ecosystem has developed over there. We have all kinds of birds and bees and butterflies and things like that. Then we went about signing up to the Race to Zero for net emission reductions. Again, that was by no requirement for our customers or anything like that. It was purely driven internally. We then started focusing on diversity and inclusion by working with NED University to basically take on a pool of female electrical engineers and bring them through a co-op program which will last 4 years, and every summer and winter they will come back to the organization and will be given sort of real business problems to deal with and execute on projects. And we began an employee volunteer program which allowed our employees to engage with many of the CSR activities that we're undertaking. So what did that ultimately do? That ultimately allowed the organization to understand that we have a bigger purpose, that we're not simply here to make cables, or that there's not simply a commercial aspect of the organization, but that there's a lot more to it. And when the values of the people working within the organization start to resonate with the values of the organization itself, that's when you get the opportunity to unlock true power. And I think that's been a great success for us. At the same time, we had what was, let's say, a divergent relationship between management and our labor. So again, being a 70-year-old company, we had a very strong union. And the alignment between management and the union was not there at that point in time. And so all this purpose stuff was resonating more with the management, but how did we get the workers to be part of the story? And we realized very quickly that the workers who are working in Pakistan Cables, who are again second or third generation, so they have a linkage to the company, but their interest was that they would be able to make money by creating overtime. So overtime was their essentially extra income, and so their practices were unproductive, so that would support the overtime and they would make more money. So we went away with overtime. We aligned management's incentives with the workers' incentives, which were essentially productivity, efficiency, and quality. And what ended up happening was that, you know, in the last 3 years, we have almost tripled our revenue. We've had record profits. We've had record productivity. And, you know, the organization now, I think, is in a position where there's just much greater alignment across the board. And we are now sort of well poised that when we do shift into our new facility in Nooriabad, we should, inshallah, be taking across a very motivated workforce and management team. And also, you know, with that sort of vision very much in place, that we still want to continue to ignite possibilities, transform lives, and instill pride. Thank you.
Thank you, Fahd. Interestingly, this morning I was at IOBM and I did a talk on purpose-led organization. So it, you know, piggybacks very well with something I spoke about this morning. And, you know, I was reading a research, and I wish I remembered the name of the company which conducted the research, but they mentioned that companies which follow a purpose and which are purpose-led, they outperform those which are not purpose-led by 42% around the globe. Why? And some of the points Fahd very eloquently mentioned in his intro, that why? Because there is a bottom-up process to buy into what you want to achieve. You know, and once you have employees and people in your organization who are aligned to you on a singular purpose, everyone in the organization moves in one direction. And the result is bound to be success, and he talked about a few numbers. He also spoke about collaboration, and, you know, typically we see, not just in Pakistan, but possibly across the globe as well, that you have management in going in one direction and the union talking about it in other direction. Many of our public sector organizations are more or less epitomize this epidemic, right? How did we create and unify that through a common purpose that everyone bought into and everyone is aligned to it? How they used the green energy initiative to bring not just sustainability in the environment, but also linking people to a bigger purpose when they come to office. And all these are critical as we go into the future and as we work towards sustainability. So now we move to Shaista from Seed Ventures to give her perspective on collaboration. And if you want to talk about ESG, feel free to do that. Sure. You know, and give her intro comments on it.
So I'm just going to introduce our organization. We started in 2009, and we are essentially a social impact ecosystem development organization, and we also do impact investments. Now, what does that mean? हमारी organization का vision जो है वो है creating inclusive economic prosperity. और हम यहाँ sustainability और collaboration की बात कर रहे हैं, तो दो चीज़ें समझना जो है वो ज़रूरी है कि इकोनॉमिक प्रॉस्पेरिटी जो है वो प्रॉस्पेरिटी के बाकी 8 डायमेंशंस के बगैर पॉसिबल नहीं है, और ये चीज़ हमें बहुत पहले समझ आ गई थी. पहली चीज़ तो ये है कि जिस सोसाइटी में एजुकेशनल प्रॉस्पेरिटी नहीं है वो प्रॉस्पर नहीं कर सकती. सिमिलरली कल्चरल प्रॉस्पेरिटी हो गई, टेक्नोलॉजिकल हो गई, हेल्थ हो गई, सोशल, पॉलिटिकल, एनवायरमेंटल, ये सारी चीज़ें ज़रूरी हैं इकोनॉमिक प्रॉस्पेरिटी को प्रॉस्पर क्या कहते हैं उसके लिए, उसको फ्लरिश करने के लिए. So that became part of our working model. Now, we decided that for transformational change to happen at an individual level, at an institutional level, at a community level, or at a systemic level, a collaborative approach was necessary if we wanted to create a cohesive form of prosperity across all levels, which is why our organization primarily exists. So we work in 2 ways. We work through ecosystem development, and we work through impact investments, and we work with women, children, youth, marginalized communities, and क्या कहते हैं आपके ख़वातीन के साथ हम काम करते हैं. इन 4 ग्रुप्स के साथ काम करते हैं. और हमारा काम जो है वो प्राइमरीली सोशल एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप और एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप के ऊपर फोकस्ड है, उनकी कैपेसिटी डेवलपमेंट, उनकी इम्पैक्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट, उनको सिस्टम से कनेक्ट करना है। लेकिन ये सारी चीज़ें जो काम भी हम कर रहे हैं वो कोलैबोरेशन के बगैर पॉसिबल नहीं है। अगर आपने सोसाइटी में प्रॉस्पेरिटी क्रिएट करनी है, सो यू हैव टू लुक फॉर सिनर्जीज, विच इज़ द आंसर टू actually all our woes at the moment, right? We have to look for people, institutions within the system that have shared values, that have a shared system of social values and financial values that can help us forward the work that we are wanting to do in society. I can give you some examples of some of our initiatives that we're doing. In collaboration with Prince's Trust International in the UK, we are running Pakistan's first and only and actually largest enterprise development program for children. And we've been doing it since the last 6 years. Now, one could ask why? Why invest in children and why teach them about entrepreneurship? Because the point is that if you're not talking to children about entrepreneurship today, you're not talking to them about sustainable businesses today, you're not preparing your workforce for tomorrow. And that is how you think about sustainability. Sustainability is not just financial profits or are you being able to survive. It's also investing in your now for the future that you want to have. So investing in your children is an important thing. Talking to them about the climate, teaching them how to be resilient is important. And this is not a one-man job. That is why we have partners and corporate institutions supporting us in this initiative, and that is why we've been able to reach 23,000 children across 6 years. And we're planning to do more in the next 5 years. Why? Because we want to give Pakistan a supply chain of young people who understand that you can solve a social problem by designing a business around it. You can be an entrepreneur, and they understand climate change and the SDGs. Similarly, the kind of work that we're doing with the youth has to deal with entrepreneurs from low-income communities. And again, why have we chosen that slot? The reason is कि आपकी मुल्क की इकोनॉमी का 98% grassroots entrepreneurs से बना हुआ है, लेकिन कोई फाइनेंसिंग फैसिलिटी, माइक्रो फाइनेंस इंस्टीट्यूशंस के इंटरेस्ट रेट्स आप जानते हैं, तो वो फाइनेंसिंग कहाँ अवेलेबल है जो कि एक माइक्रो एंटरप्रेन्योर को स्मॉल में ट्रांसफॉर्म कर सकती है, क्योंकि उनके पास कोलैटरल नहीं होता, वो फॉर्मलाइज नहीं होते. तो आई थिंक कोलैबोरेटिवली वो फाइनेंशियल सिस्टम्स होना ज़रूरी हैं, और इसीलिए हम उनकी कैपेसिटी पे काम करते हैं, इसीलिए हम ग्रांट्स उनको प्रोवाइड करते हैं, और हम कॉर्पोरेट इंस्टीट्यूशंस के साथ, प्राइवेट इंस्टीट्यूशंस के साथ कोलैबोरेट करके वो प्रोग्राम्स रन करते हैं ताकि वो अपने बिजनेसेस को ग्रो कर सकें, एक्सेलरेट कर सकें. Similarly, in the sector of women, we are working on women leadership and we are working on women entrepreneurship. And again, why have we chosen this combination? The reason we've chosen this combination is आपकी मुल्क की आधी population ख़वातीन की है, and if they're not part of the workforce, if you're not introducing new skill sets, if you're not talking to them about agriculture or energy, you know, for something what KE is doing is phenomenal, to actually teach women the skill, technical skills, जिसमें they can also be part of the energy sector. And this is something I think we all should be looking into collaboratively, के खाना पकाने, सिलाई करने के अलावा भी कोई सेक्टर्स होने चाहिए जिसमें ख़वातीन जो हैं जो हिस्सा ले सकें, and they can prosper. That will promise us sustainability for the future. And one big part that is often left out of our equations are our disadvantaged communities. Are we talking about refugees? Are we talking about people with disabilities? Are we talking about the transgender community? ये आपकी community का हिस्सा हैं. And I think for Pakistan to prosper and sustain and to get out of the mess that we're in right now, we have to think about these communities and how we're going to empower them. And collaboration is key. It might not serve your profit interest, but it needs to serve your community interest, because that eventually promises profits for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Shaista. A lot of great insight, because, you know, the concept that economic prosperity is an outcome of 8 other prosperities, be it social prosperity, education prosperity, cultural prosperity, is so profound and so critical to understand for all of us. Economic prosperity एक outcome है, वो on its own नहीं हो सकता अगर हम बाकी चीज़ों पे फोकस ना करें. तो हम अगर हम दरख्त की बात करें तो हम ब्रांचेस की बात करते हैं, रूट की बात नहीं करते. तो आयशा ने अपनी इंट्रो में ये बताया कि you got to look at the root if you want to become sustainable. And one thing I loved about what you spoke about is talking to children. देखिए, many of us who belong to what they call bloomers generation, right? All of us need to realize that in 2030 Allah Ta'ala सेहत दे और सब चीज़ें ठीक रखें, but majority of us will not be here. The businesses and the country will be run by millennials and Gen Z. हम तो उनसे दूर भागते हैं as bloomers. हम उनको कोई ill informed कह देता है, कोई उनको कहता है इनको कुछ पता ही नहीं है. वो इन बच्चों को हमसे कहीं ज़्यादा पता है. We got to start understanding this point, and whether they know more or not can always be debated, but they will be taking the country forward, not you. You've done what you were supposed to do. You have handed a Pakistan to the youth of whatever you may want to call it. Let them take the country forward to give a different country to the youth of this land. So I'm so glad you spoke about enabling children, empowering them, and bringing more entrepreneurs for it. So as we go into the last part of this intro, and then we'll go into more interactive dialogue for the next 15-20 minutes, I go to someone actually who has immense management and leadership experience from the top corporates like Angro to Hupcos, and now he's the CEO of Lucky Power. And I'm sure he can bring a lot of insight, not just from his current assignment, but also growing with this country and seeing how we have moved to shed some light for how we build a sustainable future and also the importance of collaboration for it. Ruhail, your turn. Last but not the least.
Hello. Ji. Thank you, Veqar. So as you said, I've gone through a lot of ups and downs and a lot of collaborative stories as well. But I think in the interest of time, I just want to touch upon two specific ideas, let's say proposals, which have more macro impact, and I think a lot more people will be able to relate to it. So one is from the energy sector, and you know, Pakistan imports about $5 billion of imported fuel just for power. The others, transportation extra is extra, additional. Out of that, we have 3 specific power plants built by the Chinese, which run on imported coal. And each of them, if they operate at full load, will consume coal worth $500, $600, $700 million each, right? So multiply that by 3. Today, mashallah, we have been able to develop Thar coal, which is a lignite poor quality, but nonetheless usable. So we did some rough calculations at our level, at the PBC level as well. And if we convert, say, one plant into Thar coal, it will take 2-3 years, some capital investment of something like $300 million or so. But the dollar payback in terms of the dollar saving versus the dollar invested is like just 1 year. So within 1 year, you can get whatever you spend back, and for the rest of the years, you will continue to save that. So for the 3 plants, you will end up saving about $1 billion a year just by converting these 3 plants into Thar coal. Plus, my calculation shows that the actual tariff from those plants will actually reduce by 20% as well. So not only is there a dollar saving, but actually the cost of power will also come down. All it needs is a collaboration between the Chinese investor, the government of Pakistan as a policymaker, and the government of Pakistan as a power purchaser. And it can be done. There's nothing extraordinary or rocket science about it. It can easily be done. So that's just one example which you can relate to. I'm trying to say that there are so many things that we can do in Pakistan which can, you know, let's say, improve the doom and gloom type of scenario which is there. Another example I want to give from the agri sector. So when I was heading Angro Fertilizers, we created a division called Agri Services. And the idea was to improve the yield and obviously, therefore, the income and the well-being of the farmer. So we had about 200 people going out. And what we did was that we provided them all the inputs on credit, top quality seeds, fertilizers, pesticides, manpower who would show them how it's well managed and so on and so forth. And also credit. And what we did to credit was because they used to take credit in the informal way, which is 35–40%. So we backstopped it through our own guarantee, and the cost came down from 35% to 10% or something like that. And we saw that not only did the yields go up by almost between 10 and 20%, depending on where you are, but obviously the earnings also went up because his cost of production was much lower. Unfortunately, again, it requires this a government intervention at the mass scale, but we found a mindset problem where the farmers don't want to, experiment with something new despite seeing the results. The other issue was defaults, that you guarantee everything. When the crop comes, they want to steal away that money. So it's very unfortunate that our farmers, if they just approach it and with a proper perspective, not only can the incomes increase, the yields increase, but they can do many more other things in terms of the crops. So again, this is something the agri departments of each province has to do it. They can be a private sector collaboration. And as a number of speakers spoke about agriculture, I think agriculture is one big thing which can very quickly turn around the fortunes of this country. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ruhail. So Ruhail, and something Moonis also touched upon in his intro. So Pakistan का देखें आज इस वक्त सबसे बड़ा मसला क्या है? बहुत सारे मसाइल हैं, बहुत सारे बड़े मसले हैं, लेकिन एक मसला जिसकी वजह से पाकिस्तान इस वक्त बिल्कुल ही फंसा हुआ है, वो डॉलर्स नहीं है हमारे, ठीक है? And we don't have means to save dollars, and we don't have enough means to earn dollars. That's why we are in this bigger mess, and there are many other reasons for it as well. But here are some examples that we heard with data कि आप almost $1 billion साल के बचा सकते हैं अगर आप alternate energy पे जाएं, जिस पे काम भी हो रहा है. And Moonis spoke about going to 30% alternate energy channels, and imagine the kind of foreign exchange savings that we can achieve, which will remain critical to our future. Irrespective of our ability to earn or not, it's our ability to save dollars as well, which will bring sustainability into the future. And Ruhail also spoke about a very important factor of collaboration. So you have, in his particular example, the investors, which is, if you like, the FDI, बाहर से लोग आए, उन्होंने invest किया. आपके पास private sector के लोग हैं जो उनके साथ collaborate कर रहे हैं, और आपको फिर government की sustainability, consistency of policies, और उनकी एक फॉरवर्ड लुकिंग अप्रोच चाहिए. ये तीनों मिलेंगे तो आपकी सस्टेनेबिलिटी आनी शुरू हो जाएगी. और एक सेक्टर से तो कम से कम हम ये देख रहे हैं कि वी कैन सेव बिलियंस ऑफ डॉलर. अच्छा, बिजनेसेस क्या कर सकते हैं? देखिए, बिजनेसेस या तो कंप्लेन कर सकते हैं, जो हम वैसे ही करते रहते हैं, उसमें तो हम चैम्पियन हैं, तो लेकिन दूसरा ये कि हम क्या कर सकते हैं. एंड मैनी ऑफ द स्टोरीज दैट यू हर्ड आर ऑल अबाउट नॉट मोर्निंग and living in the doom and gloom, but what are we doing to go through these tough times, and how do we bring sustainability? ग़ालिबन हाली का शेर है, माज़रत अगर मैं गलत नाम ले रहा हूँ शायर का, कि शिकवाए ज़ुल्मत शब से तो कहीं बेहतर था अपने हिस्से की फराज. अब शिकवाए ज़ुल्मत शब से तो कहीं बेहतर था अपने हिस्से की कोई शम्मा जलाते जाते. तो all what we can do is whatever is in our circle of influence, at least we can do that. If it impacts 1,000 people, so be it. If it impacts 5,000, great. 10,000, even better. But let's do our bit. Let's not just be talking about the despair, and in our own leadership capacity, be a promoter of it, right? I'll open the floor for questions. I have one specific question to all the panelists, and I would like each one of them to answer it. But I want to take one or two quick questions from the audience because we are running out of time. Ji. Zoor on kar le.
Hello. Assalamu alaikum. कोलैबोरेशन और सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से मुझे जो एक चीज़ बहुत ज़्यादा फील होती है कि हमारा बहुत बड़ा एसेट है हमारा एकेडेमिया, और उसके साथ एक बहुत बड़ा एसेट है R&D, एंड द थर्ड वन इज़ जो हम चीज़ों को कमर्शियल फॉर्म में कन्वर्ट कर रहे हैं, दैट इज़ इंडस्ट्री। दुनिया के जितने भी तरक्की याफ्ता ममालिक हैं, ये ट्राइका मिल के काम करती है, और इसका एहसास शायद अब लोगों को बहुत शिद्दत से होगा। अगर आप यूनिवर्सिटीज़ में जाएं, चाहे वो बिज़नेस के स्टूडेंट्स हैं या टेक्नोलॉजी में हैं या किसी भी फील्ड के अंदर हैं, तो उनकी लाइब्रेरीज़ थीसिस से भरी होती है, और जब वो बच्चे प्रैक्टिकल फील्ड में आते हैं तो इंडस्ट्री में उनके थीसिस, उनकी बैकग्राउंड एक्सेप्टेबल नहीं होती, वहाँ से वो एक ज़ीरो लेवल से स्टार्ट करते हैं। R&D अपने साइलों में है, एकेडेमिया अपने साइलों में है, और इंडस्ट्री अपने साइलों में रह के चल रही होती है। रीज़न, अगर ऑब्जेक्टिव क्लियर हो, अगर मैं इसको एक हॉलिस्टिक अप्रोच के साथ बात करूं, तो हमारा ऑब्जेक्टिव पैदावार तो है ही है, लेकिन उसके साथ एक ऑप्टिमाइजेशन ऑफ इंपोर्ट्स भी है कि जो चीज़ें इंपोर्ट हो रही हैं, व्हाई वी आर नॉट ट्राइंग टू डेवलप दोज थिंग्स विद इन द विसिनिटी ऑफ पाकिस्तान। जिस तरह भी इन्होंने कहा कि थरकोल के ऊपर किया, यस वी आर ऑल्सो डूइंग द सेम थिंग, हमने भी ये एक ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन की है। पाकिस्तान के अंदर इतना ज़्यादा वेस्ट क्रिएट होता है, दैट कैन बी कन्वर्टेड इनटू एनर्जी, उसके ऊपर भी बिल्कुल बॉटम लेवल के ऊपर काम है। लेकिन अफसोस ये है कि बच्चे जब उनको ये गाइडलाइन नहीं मिलती, एकेडेमिया के अंदर से ही उनके प्रोफेसर उनको प्रोजेक्ट्स देते हैं और वो मेहनत करते हैं। R&D अपने प्रोजेक्ट्स में काम कर रही होती है, लेकिन जो फ्रंट एंड के ऊपर जो इंडस्ट्री है, ये इंडस्ट्री की जिम्मेदारी है, व्हाट कैन बी कमर्शलाइज्ड, वो चीज़ें इन दोनों जो सेक्टर्स हैं इनके साथ कोलैबोरेट करके अगर ये R&D, एकेडेमिया और इंडस्ट्री मिलकर काम करे, पैसों का मामला आता है ना, ठीक, लेकिन उसमें फिर इंडस्ट्री बहुत सारे प्रोजेक्ट्स को प्रैक्टिकल शेप दे सकती है।
Fair enough. So let me just quickly summarize your question and then we'll go to the audience. कि आपका क्वेश्चन ये है कि अगर एकेडेमिया में प्रोजेक्ट्स बन रहे हैं, इंडस्ट्री क्यों नहीं आगे आ रही और उनके साथ मिलके काम करें, उन प्रोजेक्ट्स को कमर्शलाइज करें और उनको आगे लेके जाएं। मोनिस।
हेलो, हाँ, आई थिंक बहुत ही पर्टिनेंट क्वेश्चन और आई एम वेरी हैप्पी टू रिस्पॉन्ड टू दिस क्वेश्चन। सबसे पहली बात तो आपने कही एकेडेमिया और रिसर्च, अगेन SK इलेक्ट्रिक, हम आपको ये बताना चाहते हैं कि हमने एक, चाहे वो NED हो, चाहे वो हबीब हो, चाहे वो इवन लम्स हो, वी आर एक्टिवली इंगेज विद देम। हमने पूरा एक इनोवेशन चैलेंज किया था जिसमें हमने 10 डिफरेंट प्रोजेक्ट्स को आइडेंटिफाई किया एंड पीपल, उन्होंने पूरा प्रेजेंट किया था एंड वी आर वर्किंग विद देम टू कम अप विद इनोवेटिव सॉल्यूशंस। एक तो ये हमने अपने तौर पे बहुत कोशिश की है। आज से 2 दिन पहले होटल दूसरा था, बट देयर वाज अ कॉन्फ्रेंस, लोकलाइजेशन फॉर ग्रोथ, वो भी हमने नटशेल के ज़रिए उसको हमने पूरा मैनेज किया था। और आइडिया यही जो एग्जैक्टली आप कह रहे हैं, क्योंकि हमें पता है कि हमने अगले 7 साल में ना एटलीस्ट, मे बी इट कैन बी मोर, एटलीस्ट कुछ तकरीबन 500 बिलियन रुपए का कैपेक्स करना है। ये जो लाइटें जल रही हैं ना, ये ऐसे नहीं जलेंगी, इनके लिए पीछे मेंटेनेंस होगी, इनके फिर काम होगा, कहीं ट्रांसफार्मर नए लगेंगे, कहीं स्विच आएंगे, कहीं ग्रिड लगेंगे, बड़ी प्रिडिक्टेबल इंपोर्ट्स होंगी। इस अमाउंट का एज ऑफ टुडे 70% मोस्ट लाइकली इज़ गोइंग टू बी इम्पोर्टेड। हमने फहद वॉज अगेन विद अस इन दैट कॉन्फ्रेंस, और हमने तमाम इंडस्ट्रीज़ को कहा है कि दिस इज़ गोइंग टू बी अ वेरी प्रिडिक्टेबल परचेजेस फ्रॉम के इलेक्ट्रिक, और जब के इलेक्ट्रिक करेगा तो बाकी पाकिस्तान की जो डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन कंपनीज़ हैं ना वो भी करेंगी, NTDC भी करेगा। तो हमने कहा आप ये लोकलाइज़ करें, ऑब्वियसली क्वालिटी होनी चाहिए चीज़ों के अंदर। मैं थोड़ा सा आप लोगों को सिर्फ ये बताऊं कि हम पाकिस्तान, हम और बड़ी बात की, और यकीनन बात यही है कि अपने हिस्से की शमा जलाने की सब लोग कोशिश करते रहे, लेकिन जब हमारा एक पावर प्लांट बन रहा था ना और चाइना से वेल्डर्स नहीं आ रहे थे और हमने उनसे कहा हम लोकल वेंडर आपको वेल्डर्स दे देते हैं, मैं आपको बताऊँ 15 वेल्डर्स आए थे, 3 क्वालिफाई हुए थे सिर्फ। वी डोंट हैव क्वालिटी वेल्डर्स। तो हमें अपने आप को इम्प्रूव करने की ज़रूरत है और फोकस करने की ज़रूरत है कि हम क्या कर सकते हैं। और अगर सब लोग इस तरीके से काम करेंगे तो मैं समझता हूँ इंशाल्लाह। और अगेन एजुकेशन की भी अभी कोई बात कर रहा था, उन्होंने मेरे ख्याल में जिक्र किया था, हमें अपने लोगों को एजुकेट करना पड़ेगा। ये जो डिवाइड है ना, ये बढ़ता चला जा रहा है। जब ये होगा ना, देन प्रॉब्ली विल बी इन अ पोजीशन टू R&D, इनोवेट, लोकलाइज। बट कोशिश ज़रूर है और इंशाल्लाह वी विल नॉट लेट इट गो। हम सब इंडस्ट्रीज़ को पुश करते रहेंगे कि जो चीज़ पाकिस्तान में बन सकती है वो तो बनाएं।
Thank you, Moonis. Thank you. Ayesha also wants to have an input. I have 2 more questions from the audience, and then we'll close. Yeah, I'll do that.
I think ho gaya hai. I just want to pick up one strain from your question and with a specific example कि इनोवेशन से ज़्यादा हमें जो ये ज़ीरो कार्बन दुनिया होने वाली है उसकी वजह से we'll be forced to collaborate. One of the issues that the textile sector is going to face very soon, 20 billion of exports are going to be under threat if they don't very quickly change the way they operate. The top 5 or 6 will do it, all the rest are going to be in trouble. And I can tell you as a banker, हम finance कर रहे हैं projects जो agri waste को aggregate करके boilers लें, बिजली बनाएं और carbon credits generate करें. ये चीज़ जो है, we're only sort of touching the tip of the iceberg. We have a lot of sources of biofuel which we are actually throwing away. And those are the opportunities that are there for collaboration between industry, between entrepreneurs, banks, farmers. हम इकट्ठे होंगे तो ये बायोफ्यूल से हम अपनी बहुत सी प्रॉब्लम्स रिजॉल्व कर सकते हैं.
Thank you. जी.
जी, Khabar Abbas Jilani. My question is for Mr. Moonis. Can you hear? जी.
जी, आवाज़ आ रही.
जी, my question is for Mr. Moonis. While initiating panel discussion, moderator rightly pointed out that instead of thinking and planning for 2023, we should start planning for 2030. So, as we all are well aware that due to LC issue, majority of oil marketing companies, they are facing problems in importing furnace oil as well as LNG. And same goes for the local refineries because they are facing the same issue, and most of the time they are unable to import crude oil to refine product, or for power sector, I can say furnace oil. So what are your backup plan or contingency plan that in case of any supply chain breakdown, so what would be your contingency or backup plan for that?
Thank you. So I'll have Moonis, if you can quickly answer it, and if Ruhail, you can also give us quick answer to this.
Your concern is absolutely right. And again, we are engaged with all the oil suppliers, PSO and MICO and others who can supply us oil, and obviously PLL, who is providing us the RLNG. In the last year, we also imported oil ourselves. और मैं आपको एक बात बताऊं कि ये बिल्कुल इश्यूज ज़रूर है, बट मैंने ये देखा है कि स्टेट बैंक को जब जाके हम ये समझाते हैं कि दिस इज़ समथिंग विच इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट एंड इट विल हैव एन इम्पैक्ट ऑन द एंटायर सिटी, वो अप्रूवल्स देते हैं. तो आई एम श्योर दे आर अवेयर ऑफ द ओवरऑल रिक्वायरमेंट. हाँ, इंशाल्लाह जो कि हम देख रहे हैं कि मेरे ख्याल में पाकिस्तान इंशाल्लाह डिफ़ॉल्ट नहीं करेगा. हाँ, एलसी की कॉन्फर्मेशन कॉस्ट्स प्रॉबली ज़्यादा होंगी, वो हम पे करेंगे. टैरिफ प्रॉबली ऊपर जा सकता है, मगर टू बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट हमें कोई खुदा ना खास्ता ऐसी सिचुएशन नज़र नहीं आ रही कि कोई मतलब ऐसी हो जाएगी कि तेल अवेलेबल नहीं होगा या गैस अवेलेबल नहीं होगी और हम बिल्कुल मतलब विद नो फ्यूल. अनफॉर्चुनेटली तो फिर शायद हम ऑपरेट नहीं कर पाएंगे और खाली प्रॉब्लम कराची में नहीं होगा, फिर पूरे मुल्क में प्रॉब्लम होगा. आई एम श्योर द पीपल हु हैव टू टेक दोज डिसीजंस, दे आर अवेयर ऑफ दोज रिस्क्स, एंड स्टेट बैंक भी समझेगा, सप्लायर भी समझेंगे, एंड we'll continue to get what we are getting.
Thank you, Moonis. Ruhail, if you can, LCs के problems हैं, sustainability कैसे build करें?
In the long run, or long run, say 5, 7, 10 years, we will have very low number of power plants who will be operating on imported coal. There will be renewables, there will be local coal and things like that. So ये government का plan है, they will phase out all these furnace oil is almost phased out, and imported coal, LNG, will also slowly phase out. As far as KE is concerned, it's very easy. They already take 1,000 megawatts from the national grid. They can take 2,000 if they want, and at least survive for Karachi, basically.
Thank you. तो आपका पीछे सवाल है तारिक भाई, फिर मैं आपके पास आता हूँ. And that will be the last question before we conclude. Ji, please go ahead. My apologies, I see a lot of raised hands, but because of the scarcity of time, I'll have to stop.
Hello.
Ji, Janab.
Sir, I just want to ask two questions. First question is, before that, I just want to give you a very discussion of an event that has
brief रहिएगा, time नहीं है.
I went in a conference. I'm from academia. I went for presenting my paper in Abu Dhabi University back in 2017. After the conference, we had some informal discussion with some of the professors of Abu Dhabi University in the canteen. When we were discussing over there, a few of the students came to one of our hosts. He was also the professor. So those students who was Arabs asked the professor that what the meaning of sustainability. So then that professor said that I will give you this answer because I am the professor of sustainability and strategic management. So come to me tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Inshallah, I will give you all the answers. So after that, that professor asked me, do you know why these students asked this question? That what is the meaning of sustainability? I said, I don't know. Then he said that there is a strategic plan given by the UAE government in which sustainability is included. So when government gives any type of these type of strategic plans to the country, they ask the corporate sector to include these components in their businesses.
Question पूछ रहे हैं.
And after academia to include these components in their educational system. So personally, I just want to appreciate all the corporates, those are over here who are working in sustainability and CSR. I would like to appreciate because we know that government support is not out there. If they are doing this, is very appreciating. First.
Thank you. Ji.
So my question is, because we are in a very initial stage on the implementation of sustainability and CSR in Pakistan, I just want to look forward different, you can say, what is the meaning behind this? So meanings of sustainability and CSR are different organizations. Some organizations adopt these things, these aspects because they want to comply the legal requirements of the government. Some organizations adopt the CSR because this is the requirement of their compliance, regulatory compliance. Some organizations for marketing purposes.
So the question is, sustainability or CSR में क्या फर्क है? Is that the question?
So my question is, why we all should work for the adding our value to the society. This should be the prime aspect.
Fair enough.
So my question is, when Shoaib Saab discussed about it, K-Elect is working for the CSR and these kind of things, we know that there are a lot of people in our city, they are facing a lot of problems. So
got it.
I think we...
ठीक है, सवाल आपका समझ में आ गया. फहद, अगर आप इस पे थोड़ा, if you can shed some light. One is, what do we mean by sustainability? And also a lot of discussion happening around academia and industry collaboration and its importance for sustainability. If you can just shed some light. And then Shaista, I would also like you to shed some light on this.
Sure. So I think sustainability, I think we've been talking about it in two contexts today, right? One is sustainability around climate, and I think that is very much the focus these days, particularly with Pakistan, and Pakistan being a climate challenged country and what we've seen with the floods and so on. And then there's sustainability around your businesses and your institutions in crisis. And these are some of the themes that we've been talking about today. So I think there's a dual meaning to sustainability. When I think about innovation in Pakistan, I think fundamentally Pakistanis are very innovative people, entrepreneurial and innovative. But are we able to harness that innovation or even accept that innovation? That's really the question. And I'll give you an example of a product that we've been offering in Pakistan now for 4.5 years. It reduces line losses by 30%, and it doubles the output of a transmission line by 100%. And this is a proven technology. It has over 150,000 kilometers installed across the world, including Bangladesh, India, USA, you name it. It's everywhere, but Pakistan is just slow on the uptake. And Pakistan is probably the country that needs it the most. So the acceptability of new technology and the fear of making the wrong choices is really what's holding us back, because fundamentally I do believe that we are innovative people.
Good points. Shaista, if you want to add some insight to this?
If I understood his question correctly, he was asking about the difference between sustainability and CSR. So sustainability in very simple form ऐसा है कि किसी इंसान की फर्नीचर की फैक्ट्री हो, ठीक है, और वो फर्नीचर जो बनाता है वो दरख्त अपने फैक्ट्री के बराबर एक जंगल है, उससे दरख्त काट के वो फर्नीचर बनाता है, मगर वो दरख्त लगाता नहीं है. एक पॉइंट इवेंचुअली आ जाएगा जब उसके पास दरख्त नहीं बचेंगे और वो फर्नीचर नहीं बना सकेगा और उसकी कॉस्ट ऑफ बिजनेस इंक्रीज कर जाएगी टू द पॉइंट कि वो ऑपरेट नहीं कर सकेगा. तो इसका मतलब ये है कि उसने बड़े शॉर्ट साइटेड तरीके से अपने बिजनेस और उसके ऑपरेशंस के बारे में सोचा है. अगर वो सस्टेनेबिलिटी और सस्टेनेबल ऑपरेशंस के बारे में सोचता तो जहाँ वो दरख्त काट रहा है वो लगा भी रहा होता और वो डाइवर्सिफाई भी कर रहा होता अपनी सप्लाई बेस. दैट्स व्हाट सस्टेनेबिलिटी इज़. इसी चीज़ को अगर आप एज एन एग्जाम्पल लें एक्शन में, एजुकेशन की यहाँ बात हुई थी कि आप what are you putting into your students to produce the workforce you need 20 years from now? So if we're putting in trash, we're going to get out trash. That's what's going to happen. But if we're putting and giving them the skills that we need 30 years from now or 20 years from now, then we're thinking sustainably. What is CSR? And CSR is an old term. Nobody uses it any longer. It used to be patchwork. It used to be investing in short-term interventions जो आज हैं कल नहीं हैं और जिनका अता पता फिर पता भी नहीं चलता था आपको. इससे corporations, institutions, forward-looking institutions, they've moved away from it because it does not contribute to their strategic bottom line. So you will find very few people using this term now. It has been replaced with sustainability. So now people invest in interventions, in works, in projects, in programs, जो कि उनसे relevant communities या उनकी strategic bottom line को eventually serve करते हैं. Because it advances not only their goodwill in society, but also their business. I hope that clarifies your confusion.
Thank you. Ji Tariq bhai, quickly. Yeah. Okay. So I think because we have run out of time, so I wanted to go for a last comment from everyone, but let me try and sum it up. Look, only by thinking about the future, only by thinking about solutions, only by thinking of becoming sustainable, we have a chance not just to go through these tough times, but also come out stronger. बहुत सारे यंग बच्चे यहाँ बैठे हुए हैं. आजकल मैं जब भी उनसे मिलता हूँ तो हर कोई कोशिश कर रहा है कि बस बाहर चले जाए. शायद आपको मौके मिल भी जाए और शायद आप में से कई लोग चले भी जाएं. लेकिन कितने लोग चले जाएंगे? 8 लाख, 10 लाख, लास्ट ईयर 8 लाख लोग हैं. 10 लाख चले जाएंगे, 20 और चले जाएंगे, तो अगले साल तो हम फिर 220 मिलियन होंगे क्योंकि इससे ज़्यादा ऐड हो जाएंगे. राइट? याद रखें, ये 220 मिलियन लोगों ने इधर ही रहना. जो मर्जी कर लें आप, तो इस मुल्क को ठीक होना ही होना है. And it will, because there is no choice, right? Because nobody in the world, leave aside people from Pakistan, will leave 220 million people out on the street. Nobody. So this country will fix. Sadly, it is taking more time than we all would have anticipated. We keep digging more. But eventually 220 million people, out of which 64% are the Gen Zs and the millennials, they will drive the future of this country. So the future will be fine. It's the present that we need to sail through, and we will only be able to sail through when we all think of building a sustainable future within our own sphere, within our own circle of influence, while of course worrying about what's happening beyond and getting affected by it. लेकिन अपने काम ठीक करें, अपने लोगों को होप दें, रहना इधर ही है. 220 मिलियन लोग बाहर नहीं जा सकते. ये मेरी बात याद रखें. Thank you so very much. Thank you everyone. Thank you for all the panelists. Thank you so much.
Ms. Ayesha Aziz, please step forward and accept the memento. Mr. Ruhail Mohammad, you are requested to please step forward and accept the memento. Mr. Fahd Kamal Chinoy, please step forward and accept the memento. Ms. Shaista Ayesha, please step forward and accept the memento. Syed Veqar al-Islam, please step forward and accept the memento. All the speakers are requested to please come forward and have a group picture. Can we please have a big round of applause for our speakers?